Okay, we are finally live. Sorry about that.
Okay, I call the April 22nd work session for the Bold School District School Board meeting to order. It's 6:19 p.m. We had a few glitches with getting the live feed up and going, hence the delay. So roll call, we have all board members present for the work session. Would everyone please stand and for the Pledge of Allegiance?
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Is there a motion to approve the work session agenda?
So moved.
Is there a second?
Second.
It's been moved by member Bowen and seconded by member Osseth to approve the agenda. Any discussion? Any discussion? Any discussion? Okay, hearing none, we'll proceed to vote. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Oppose? Motion carries to approve the agenda. Okay, thank you everyone for attending tonight in person and online. Your participation is appreciated. With that, we'll move into new business, and first would be policy process. So I'll start with that and say that we're working on a policy, or we need to work on a policy as a board on facility naming. So has anyone had time to do any research on that at this point? None what?
I've done a little bit, and I've talked to, well, my sister's on the school board in the cities, and I've talked to her about it a little bit. And she had said that that's down there, that's not something you really want to do, because you just open a can of worms when you do that. And because they've had people come in there and try and do it, and it's like, it just it's hurtful feelings all the way down. I told her kind of what we were looking at, and she said, yeah, they had a scenario, and she didn't go into who it was or whatever, but she said they had a scenario down there, and they just chose not to, because the staff members almost felt like they weren't as important, because they tried to do it. It was somebody that had done something, and I can't remember, because it was like a month ago I asked her about this already. It was, I don't know if it wasn't a coach, it was an actual staff member that had done something, and then he retired and did some things at the school, but then a lot of people thought it was, he did a great job and stuff, so they wanted to do something for him, and they just chose not to, just because some of the staff members that were there said, well, there's other people here that have done great things too. Why would you go on section one out? And so it kind of got to be kind of a domino effect there, and it got to be a riffraff at the school. And yeah, it wasn't a good thing. But she had talked to, I asked her to talk to, because she said there was another school that was doing it or going to do it, but she hadn't talked to that person yet to see what happened in that. And that was down by the cities too, but.
Did they have a policy on it, or it's just like you talked about her opinion on it?
No, she said that they had talked about it. I forgot to ask if there was a policy. I guess I forgot to ask her if she had a policy or not. I should have.
Which school district is this?
I don't even know. It's up Brooklyn Park, up on the northern side. I don't know what the name of the school was.
It doesn't matter what the school is. It's going to be a
Yeah.
district policy.
Yeah.
So it would go across
Yeah.
all the buildings or facilities within
Right.
that's under that school district. Okay.
As I was thinking about the facility naming, there are individuals that make an impact on the students and the life in this community and education. And are we singling out just sports figures? We have music figures. We have other figures that have done great things. And is it a recognition that we need to make sure that that teacher is recognized, but not necessarily name a wing after them or a field after them or whatever?
Okay. Okay. Todd, do you have any input or?
I don't think naming a facility after a specific person, I think is a bad idea. I like to go with the, if you want to have an individual night, saying, okay, this is going to be so-and-so's appreciation night for a game, have a picnic or sell hot dog or whatever you want to, maybe do it that route versus naming an actual facility after somebody. I just think that puts a school board in a awkward position as far as, well, you can improve, you did it for this one, why won't you do it for this person? So that's my feeling.
I think part of a teaching staff is you want unity amongst your teaching staff. And if you single out one person, then it gets kind of lopsided as far as the feelings.
Well, absolutely. It's you're kind of telling the rest of the staff, you're not good enough, but this one is. And this one may do great things, but like she said, there's a lot of other people in this staff members in the school that have done just as good, if not better, at some things too, but maybe a different way. And do you want to single them out? And you're basically telling the rest of the staff, you're not good enough. You have to do this, this, or this to get your name on anything. And realistically, is that fair? I mean, we already have a hard time trying to find staff. And then you go and do something like that, and it's like singling them out. That scares me. I don't like that.
Okay. Brian?
I don't know. I see a lot of stuff all around the world where it's named after somebody. I guess I don't see it as that big of a thing. I don't think it's going to scare staff off because you've named a football field after somebody. If somebody's done great things in your music department and you would recognize them with that, I mean, that's just putting them on a pedestal for what they've done for your school and for your community. If they deserve it and enough people think they deserve it, I don't have a problem with it. If not enough people think so, then you'd have to find a way. That's where the policy comes in to determine, is this worth doing for this person? Have they done above and beyond? A lot of fantastic people in our community have done a lot of fantastic things. Parks are named after people in our town. Does that stop people from living and trying to be good people because somebody already had a park named and they don't have a park named after them? I don't think so.
But they
But
probably
things are
put money into
recognized.
it.
It's just a recognition thing. So I guess it would depend more. It doesn't matter what I think. I'm just one vote, just like everybody else is one vote. But to look at it in the community and talk to the people that are around and ask them what they want. That's what our policy, we got to try to figure out, how do we ask the community if they think it's a good idea or not a good idea, I guess is the way I look at it. I don't look at it as a negative. I think it's a celebration of somebody who's gone above and beyond. And it is actually to the point where people recognize what they did.
And so this is on the agenda for the reason to get input to form a policy by Brian and I as the policy committee to bring before the full board. And just so everyone is also aware, we need to have that policy draft vetted legally first because it is going to be new. We got to make sure we're not bringing anything forward that could violate state statute or other things. And so that's part of the process as well, just so everyone is on the same page and understands that. So anyhow, I just wanted to bring that up as part of the discussion. Brad?
Obviously, I'm kind of new to this discussion. I think that both that side of the table and Ryan have very good points. I don't know exactly where the right answer falls for me because I'm just kind of new in this, I think that people, you got to figure out a way to recognize good people and what they do in some way.
Craig, any thoughts?
I guess, are we referring to this as just strictly naming in with respect to an individual's name, or
No,
could
this
this
has
be
to-
any type of naming?
This could be any type of naming. This is not, a facility policy should never be tailored towards one person, one scenario. It has to be encompassing across everything, because if we put a policy in place, well, we are going to be putting a policy in place, that what goes into that policy should be able to be used by the board in 15 years from now. Not that not that what we do may not get changed in the future by another board, or the things that happen, policies do get altered, but if we do our job in putting a policy in place, it should, for the most part, not change a lot, as it moves forward. And it has to be a policy that fits our community.
Yeah, and as far as naming it after a specific individual, I guess it really does get down to, is that what the community is really looking for? When I look at when we were at our school board conference back in January, what school was it up north, Virginia? They did they sold their rights to the naming of buildings, basically, where they were actually selling the advertising.
Correct. And I'm finding that in policies I've researched, and I'm finding policies where they're actually setting a minimum amount in the policy to get naming rights, or to name basically their donation only.
And I guess that's the way I would hope that our policy would be a little more focused, that if we want to go that route, if I guess I'm not sure how we would do that, whether or not we name it after an individual or open it up to the potential of donors paying a certain amount to have their name on a facility or an addition or building, whatever, or room. I guess I'd rather see it open up potentially that way.
I've seen policies that list both methodologies within their policy.
That's a good idea.
Mm-hmm.
So you'd have, say, $50,000 to $100,000, you can name a certain amount at the school. If you put 100 to 200, you have your choice of whatever, if you, certain amount of money is going in there, you would get that opportunity to do that.
Yeah.
And I know a lot of places do that.
Well, similar to all the sports stadiums in the cities or across the country,
Yeah.
they all sell their naming rights.
Correct. Yeah, like, can't remember what the Red Rock, is it Red Rock? He goes Red Rock.
Central.
Their gymnasium they had was named. They had a very nice looking logo of the business that paid for it. I think it was like one of the steel manufacturers or steel companies up there. Looked very nice. They had requirements on the letter size and everything, how it would be presented. So they had a nice consistent look from facility to facility and different activity or rooms or activities. So the look was similar. It wasn't like one side's huge, another one's tiny. So they kind of had that as part of their policy as well. And maybe that would be a school worth reaching out to.
I'll look and see if they have a policy. So Red
I
Rock
would
Central.
guess that they do, because they did have naming convention on quite a few different things.
I'll check. I looked at West Central Conference schools, and I could not find a single West Conference school that has a naming policy in their on their website. In fact, there's very few schools I was finding that are in the smaller 2 tiers of size in the state that actually have naming policies. Most of them are like a Wilmer, Alexandria, or larger that have naming policies that I'm
Maybe
finding.
that's something right there.
Yeah.
With no policy, maybe that's why.
Yeah, and I also spent time, I found a paper by a professor out of Duke Law, and he talked about it wasn't a small paper, it's like 97 pages or something that I read. It talked about constitutional issues if a school issues a naming right, but doesn't have a policy and the impact it can have on a school district on law.
So you gave me the example of, if Philip Morris wants to come in and give us $1 million to make the Marlboro Field or something, clearly we're not going to do that, but
Yeah.
so
But if
how
you-
do you discern who you're going to go with, who you can't, who you don't?
Yeah, and a lot of the policies I've looked at have a statement in them that say something that naming needs to adhere to the mission values and of the district, or I'm paraphrasing something like that. So
So have you got some examples of some policies?
I have lots of examples of policies that I printed and read through and looked at. I just randomly started looking around and dig
Yeah.
and to see what was all out there and kind of the range. So, I mean, and it is a wide range, a
Yeah.
huge wide range.
Yeah.
But in doing
What were you
this,
finding? I know you said it's a wide range, but
I'm finding where there's policy where they don't allow any naming whatsoever to where they're allowing naming rights. At the oldest one I found dated back to, it was enacted in Minnesota back in 2012. I've gotten some policies from schools in other states that I printed off just for some cross-reference to see what is being done in outside of Minnesota as well that I found. It's all over the board, Greg. Literally all over the board on what's done or suggested, or and it's up. Like I said, there's no MSBA model policy, and they've said that they are not going to have one for the fact that it's up to an individual district and in how they want to handle it and tailor it to the needs in that district. And one district is very different from another on that regards. So.
So you didn't find many in the state that do actually do that.
I found around a dozen right now or so,
Yeah.
or 15 that have policies. And I looked at all the neighboring school districts to Bold. The only one that has one is Wilmer. And theirs is like a 1.5 paragraph policy. Very simple.
Hodap Field, isn't it? Hodap?
That was named a long time ago.
Right,
Yeah.
they did name it.
The old, that one I referred to, that went back to 2012, they do have rooms and they actually have a list of everything they've named in the school district. And any past coach that had something named after them, most of the naming was done after the individual has passed away. At least that was my research, because I went and looked cross-reference back to some obituaries and other things just to get an idea when they, in some news articles, when they actually named relative to when the individual coached or what they did. So in that example, they had yeah, anyhow, like I said, it's all over the board on what I found.
Yeah, if you're gonna name something, don't wait for them to die to name it after them. That's kind of missing the whole point, I think. In my opinion.
I think we've got to get a policy.
Yeah,
If somebody comes forward and says, hey, I want to donate $100,000 to name this after my kid or something, whatever it is, we should be ready with an answer. We shouldn't have to take 3 to 5 months to put something together.
So with the feedback that Brian and I have been given by everybody here, I think we could probably now start to put a rough one together that we can pass through legal and bring to a meeting. Is that,
Yeah.
any sound good?
Mhm.
Okay.
Could you do if you named it after a person? Ever since you can kind of make your own plan up. If you named it after somebody and put a time limit on it, you know what I mean?
That was in policies too. Some
So you
had to
name it-
expire after X
Name
number
the
of
field
years.
for 10 years, and then after 10 years, if there was something else, somebody else or something else to change it to, because that one generation will move on, and then there might be a next generation or the next one up. Or maybe it just goes back to not having a name until,
It's a great idea.
just to put so it's finite, it's not.
Well, and if it's.
One, it means something to the immediate community. It's not 50 years ago,
Yeah,
and they have no
who's
idea.
that?
Well, and if it's used as revenue from the standpoint of advertising, well, you don't want to sell it forever.
Right.
You want to
Correct.
potentially recoup or give more investment in that way. So I think that's a great idea.
Yeah, that type of stuff was in policies as well that I saw. Not all of them, but some
Why
of
didn't you tell us that, Todd, that I would have to say?
them. I've read so much. My head is spinning around all the possibilities out there, in all honesty.
Well, realistically, what number would you be looking at? $50,000 to $100,000 donation, or 100 or over?
I
think you need to make it good enough.
A lot of them had like 100 and over.
Yeah, I was gonna say
They were
100 or
significant-
over
significant.
donation to the school, then at least it,
You have to have
You don't
your
have
out in case something in that business goes bad. or something.
Correct. There's a statement in there that, yes.
If they,
It sort of might depend on
Correct.
what they're donating. If they want a ticket booth named after somebody, then maybe it's not $100,000 ticket booth, but
Yep, and then it refers to getting a contract done and especially if there's advertising involved with it and naming rights in that regards. There's, there was another thing I was gonna bring up around that.
what happened? How did they do it when Steffels built that garage out there?
Stuffle shed, yeah.
Yeah.
That was just going through my mind when you said.
Like,
it.
how
Didn't
did,
even know.
yeah, after Brandon passed, they built that shed. But I was wondering how they did that or how that
What's
worked.
the name on the shed?
It's, at least everyone calls it the Stuffle.
Steffels shed, because Joy and Tom Steffel put the money.
Correct.
I'm sure that
they
they
built it.
donated
Was
and
it-
people were, well, this is nice, thank you.
Is there a name on it or is it just?
No, but I'm trying to,
called Stuffle
legality
Shed?
wise, I'm kind of wondering, what's that?
I said, is it a name on it or is it just everybody calls it Stuffle Shed?
I don't know. I haven't
I think it's
Harry's
just,
Corner.
I think it's just referred to as,
Yeah,
I think that's
but
what
it's,
it is.
it doesn't
Yeah.
have.
It doesn't have.
Well,
a
it's
brand
got
on
his
it.
picture. I know it's got his picture in there. But I don't remember what the process was that they
Well,
did.
and that's what I was gonna say. So the policies also outline what the process is to go through for naming, how the names are submitted, typically how many are brought forward. The group that does the initial vetting of the names in a committee or whatever, what that is comprised of, is it comprised of citizens from the community? Is it have a student on it? Does it have a staff member on it? It all defines all that stuff as part of the policy. So, and how it's all handled and done. And every policy I've read, well, not everyone, the vast majority also had a statement in them about the school board reserves the right at any time to revoke or remove a name for whatever reason,
Which makes sense.
which makes perfect sense to have. So.
But I can see where if, say, in the event of naming after an individual, if there was a couple of businesses that decided to advertise it, have their names on it, but then in recognition of so-and-so, sponsored by, X companies. There could be things along those lines as well.
There could be, and so, yeah, and also whether someone has the right, we could set and bar whether they have the right to pass that naming on to someone else, like subcontractor type of thing. Or we want to prevent that from happening. Which I would probably recommend we prevent that from happening because you don't want
The worst thing that's gonna happen is if you gotta dot your i's and cross your t's on every stinking little thing on it. If you don't do it at all and just say there's no naming, then you don't have to worry about all the little pieces to the pie that could come up in the future. It'd be just done. We don't do that.
That is very much a
So-
simple policy to put forward.
Really, I mean, because somebody's gonna come up and say, well, you didn't exactly say this and this and this in here, and now we want to do this, and you're gonna have all kinds of a mess going forward. It could be a domino effect of a lot of clutter, rather than just saying, you know what, this isn't something we want to do. It's just not gonna work for us. We don't want to go there.
I think
The
well
only
thought.
thing
Go ahead.
So,
I kind of mentioned Red Rock Central. I think they made it's like $1.5 million of donations as a result of naming rights. And
oh, really?
So it wasn't an insignificant
Right.
amount that they brought in for
Wow.
donations.
Another recent one, Owatonna High School was just built here within the last few years, and they did quite a bit of naming rights to their facility in different areas and donations. And they do have a policy. I did print that one.
Yeah, Federated
cool.
Insurance donated like $20 million or something like that.
Yeah.
It was a lot of money.
Oh, wow.
Because they're
Yeah.
trying to get employees to
Yeah.
stay in the area, get the
Yeah.
students to see it and stay there and work for Federated.
Mhm.
They have a glass, they make glass, they call the glass for the US Bank Stadium. They created all that. So they have some big companies down there to.
Viracon.
Mhm.
Okay.
And a well-written policy will cover all those things.
Hmm.
So I don't think we need to be
It's gonna
scared
be
about it, but it's
difficult
going to
get
be a lot of
policy
little
that
entities.
covers everything, but all we can do is take a shot at it. And if something comes up, we just might have to amend it,
Yes.
which is the unfortunate part, but I mean, that's just policy's a policy.
Yeah. Okay. I'm looking at the clock here and knowing we start our regular meeting in about 12 minutes. And my gut says we are not going to have enough time to justify going in and talking about board goals. What do you all think here? Actually, before we go, are we done with policy discussion here? Do we want, or I guess I don't want to cut it off. I want to make sure we have the discussion on it in the work session. We're good?
I'm good.
Okay. So, school board goals, we could take a stab at starting.
Let's do
on
it.
So I gave you a copy of what we had arrived at last February for the board on school board goals. And we want to do those same 4 areas that go with our strategic plan: the achievement and opportunity, recruitment and retention, the facilities and maintenance, and the safety and wellness areas. My proposal is that let's make this essentially a homework assignment by each board member, where you look at this and come back with one goal in each area. And we could tackle it at our next meeting. We could do a work session ahead of the May meeting on board goals. And then,
Our meeting on Wednesday is going to be short, isn't it?
yes. Yeah, that will be short, but I don't,
I'm just curious, as it makes sense to add this to the end of it or just do it this next month.
I think we take time to think about it and come back in May is my opinion. I don't want to
That's fine.
ram our goals through and not have everyone give some due thought to it
Sure.
as
So
because
you're
they
looking at each of us creating a new goal?
are suggesting a goal
Or
and
any-
it could be
or
something
any-
on-
Or editing the goal that's
The-
already.
Yep. Or you could take something that's there and edit and
It's on the back.
oh, it's underneath your binder.
Oh, right there.
You set it, your binder on top, Todd. And then we'll have a work session at 6:15 on our May meeting and we'll go over goals. And then at the May meeting and the regular meeting, well, then we'll could approve our goals. Does that sound like a plan? Amenable plan by everyone? Okay. All right. So that will be what we do. So bring your, actually, email by the Monday before the meeting, email your 4 goals to Amy. She'll have that all pre-assembled for the work session. And then we'll have that ready for discussion, and everyone's already provided. And I think that'll make the session a little more, like we can have discussion more around the goals versus coming up with them. And I think it'll be best use of everyone's time.
Oh, you can still modify them.
Yep.
So you said the Monday before, so that'd be the 15th.
The 15th, yeah. I think
Thank
the
you.
20, is it the 22nd?
Yeah, we moved our
Yes.
meeting up because of Memorial Day.
Correct. Yep, by the 15th.
Okay.
Okay, with that, I'll entertain a motion to adjourn the work session.
I so move.
Is there a second?
Second.
It's been moved by member Klaus and seconded by member Peppel to adjourn the work session. Any discussion? Discussion? Okay, all in favor, say aye. Aye. Oppose? Motion carries to adjourn the work session at 6:51.
Can I just verify, you said Monday, the 13th, to have
15th, is that,
Well, it's the 13th.
oh, it'd be the 13th.
Yeah.